Morning, YouTube land. FatMan's here. Guy Smiley's joining me. We're going to have some breakfast. And then we're going to talk about medication and stuff hitting the fan. And our opinion on it, since our opinion seems to differ a little from some people. So we'll be back in a few minutes. We're back. We have successfully completed breakfast.
Good stuff, too.
Got my Sigma sitting on the table. I trust it. A lot of people don't know what to think of them, but that's my carry piece today. So we were going to talk about meds today, and what's going to happen when the stuff hits the fan. I know personally, I keep about a 90-day supply. My wife has a prescription that they won't give her 90 days. They will only give her 30 days at a time because it's a controlled substance. So that's one of those that we can't get, but she keeps up with it and gets it every 30 days whenever she can. Pretty damn expensive stuff too. But I don't know, what's your take on the meds? What do you think? You're diabetic, so I know you have other concerns there.
Yeah, it's like the insulin that I use, it's a lot of people don't know about. There's an alternative or an option, because they had me on the really, really expensive stuff, and I thought that's all there was. And I found out that China Mart has their brand, and the only difference is you need to take it twice a day instead of once a day. Works just as well, and the difference is $130 difference in the price.
30-day supply?
For a 30-day supply, one vial.
Wow. That's pretty significant.
And it's like $24 for a vial of it. And then you have to have syringes. And, I suppose in an emergency situation you could get 2 uses out, via, but it's still, that's not good, but there's some stuff you can find other places.
Yeah.
Like antibiotics.
Yeah.
You can. Well, I guess in an emergency you could actually use like fish antibiotics that they use.
You can use fish antibiotics, horse.
Yeah, any of
that livestock stuff. I mean, it's pretty much the same stuff we take in a different dose.
Yeah, and it's
same with the painkillers. And I found that out because I had a dog and she was on, I think it was Cosequin, which is pretty expensive painkiller for her hip dysplasia. But I found out that if we were to give her 1 Cosequin a day, or if we were to give her an aspirin twice a day or 3 times a day, would have had the same effect for her.
Okay.
And a lot of times you don't find that kind of stuff out until you do a little research on your own.
Yeah, it's like get to know your pharmacist, because a lot of times with doctors, this is just in general right now, doctors don't always know the prices. It's really, they're not the jerks. We have to do the research.
Yep.
And then get to know your pharmacist, tell them your situation. And that's how I found out with mine, between the patient educators and diabetic specialists at St. Mary's.
Which is Mayo Hospital.
Yeah, in Rochester, Minnesota. And after we talked and they knew my situation and stuff, and then they're like, have you heard about this? It's not something that's necessarily advertised. I found out some really more affordable options. And, so that helps. So, do the research. Don't just go off of what, we may say here is, we're going to go do that. Google it. Do research.
Yep.
There's all kinds of stuff, and find out for yourself some emergency stuff. Like right now, the pain medication that I was prescribed ran out a long time ago, and like acetaminophen doesn't work. But I found out nighttime acetaminophen, I don't know what the extra thing is in there, actually works for...
They take the caffeine out.
Okay.
To the best of my knowledge, that's all they do is take the caffeine out.
Okay. but it seems to work a little bit better because with the amputation and stuff, because I'm not on a kilter, sometimes I'll have body pains, and it's usually at the end of the day anyway, so yeah, I mean, it's just to find something different, something that works for you, you know, and because when you get into, and there are natural alternatives, it just takes longer with some of the stuff. There's honey. Honey can be used as for
disinfectant for wounds and stuff like that, if I recall.
Yeah, for light scratches. You don't want to do heavy, you know, gashing wounds or anything, but they work. It works as a dressing. I've used it myself, and it. I had a
aloe can be pretty good for that too. Just from an aloe vera plant, just crack it off and put it on. There's
all kinds of options out there. It's just that you need to get into a mindset of not, you know, you can't dial 911.
Nope, can't dial 911. And let's face it, you know, if something happened, if there was a tornado or something come through Minnesota here, which has happened, and it'll pretty much shut down a city. When it can wipe out an entire city. We've had it pretty close to that. I think in St. Peter, one of the few buildings that stood through it was the courthouse.
Yeah.
You know, and there's been a couple other cities that have been just decimated. I'm trying to think of the one, Greenville. I want to say it was Greenville, Oklahoma, or Kansas. Down in that neck of the woods. I can't remember, it's been a while ago, but the entire city was wiped out.
Oh yeah.
The entire town was decimated. And they've rebuilt.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a total mindset of what are you going to do? Well, guess what? I've got enough skills that I'm going to rebuild.
Yeah. I'm
not going to be a sheep.
Yeah. And FatMan here, he's up to date on his first aid and CPR and stuff.
I just have to do that for work, though.
Yeah.
But I've been CPR and first aid certified since 1983 when I was in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
So, and it's something that you need to keep up with. That is a skill that you will never, ever forget if you keep up with the training. Now, things have changed. You know, now they're teaching no rescue breathing. They're just teaching chest compressions.
Yeah, they finally... Because that was the question I had for years.
Yeah.
We're breathing carbon dioxide, you know. But
there's still 16% oxygen in your carbon dioxide.
Oh, that's what.
That's what if I remember. I mean, I don't remember. My numbers could be off, but I'm thinking that's the number. And the whole point of that rescue breath was to get the chest moving again.
Yeah. But there, you know, it's the, you know, having a really good. I mean, you don't necessarily need the kits with the sutures and stuff like that, but to have a you know, more...
Let's face it, we're not doctors.
Yeah, exactly, because...
If I had to stitch something up, yeah, I could probably pull it off, but my mom was a seamstress and she taught me how to sew.
Yeah, it's one of these two where, case in point with another YouTuber, Misty Shooter 223, they were butchering hogs, and... she is right-handed, so it's her left hand, I think, that she was reaching for something and a knife came through. Somebody was cutting from the other side and it cut across her finger here, and it cut it deep. And it went shut before all the gunk that might have been in there got out.
Sure, all the good bacteria.
Yeah, so then it... swelled up really bad. She had pictures on her thing, and they ended up where they tried to lance it to drain it, and that wasn't working, so they had to cut it right down here, down to the bone. And I mean, she had a pretty extensive, because where they live in rural Tennessee, she had a real extensive first aid kit.
Sure.
And still, you know, it was one of the simple things of, and I had a situation too where I had a cut on my. And I didn't get all the stuff out and got infected on the inside.
I was fishing one time, and if anybody knows, the people that do know what a northern is, northern pike, they got some pretty big teeth.
Yep.
And I was taking a 13-pounder off one day, got it off, and as I was putting him on the stringer, I got raked across my finger. And when we say raked, it means that we caught the teeth a little bit, just went right across the teeth. And I didn't think anything of it. It was just barely little marks, you know, and it didn't seem like anything. It never bled, nothing. There's so much bacteria in a northern's mouth that within a day it was all red around it, and the next day it had swelled up almost this whole part of my finger, and it was all full of pus. So it's pretty nasty, and I didn't think anything of it because it didn't even bleed. You know, it turned a little red, but it never bled.
No, I know and this is just, I've seen it work with animals. I've heard about it done to humans in the old days. But they used to take bread, day-old bread,
Yep.
and soak it in as hot as you can stand it milk, put it on as a poultice and wrap it
Yep.
on a surface wound like that, and you would draw the poison out, or at least take the scab off, loosen so it could draw the poison out.
Yep.
Would I do it now? Maybe to try it on myself, but I am diabetic and I don't really want to play with that stuff.
Yeah, don't play with that.
Yeah, and
I'll play with it someday.
yeah, but it's you know, people with compromised immune systems. You gotta be really, really careful. I mean, in an SHTF situation, there's gonna be people might literally die from, you know, getting a scratch.
Yep.
Because we won't have the antibiotics maybe as much, and you know, if it goes long term, you know, we'll run out.
Right.
You know, and just simple things like that.
Yeah, and that's, you know, and that kind of brings you to another whole phase of the med thing. Be freaking careful.
Yeah.
Don't be an idiot.
Yeah.
If you don't need to do something that you can risk getting hurt, don't freaking do it.
Yeah.
Don't take unnecessary risks.
Yeah. Watch where you're walking.
Break your freaking leg. Break your leg once.
Yeah.
I tell you what. Well, that was my foot that I broke.
Yeah.
But, well, and tell them how you lost your leg.
Yeah. That ended up where, I mean, as diabetic, I had neuropathy in my left foot, which is a deadening, or you have a hard time feeling things. And I had a broken bone in my left foot that did not get caught on 2 x-rays. And it wasn't until it got so infected when they did an MRI, of course it stood out like a sore thumb.
Right.
And then that's when they knew they had to save as much as they could. They had to take off from the foot up about to mid-shin. And, but yeah, I mean, that was one of them where I walked on it for 2 months. It was infected for that month. I felt like crap, but I was still, you know, a tough guy, you know, and worked through it.
Yep.
And it just got to be to the point where it was so much pain, and I didn't realize how bad it was. And I mean, if there wouldn't have been, I mean, they had so many antibiotics in me, it was unbelievable. That, yeah, I would have been one of the ones that, well, you would have been. Hopefully they served good food at my funeral.
Yeah, well, I'll see to it.
Okay. But, yeah, that's, in the old, my wife was the same way. My son was born 10 weeks premature. He was 2 pounds 9 ounces. If that would have been, well, there is cases in the old days of premature babies being born, and that they're alive, they're lucky. I mean, he was very lucky, modern medicine. But still, I would have lost both of them.
Yeah.
You know, and if, you know, survival situations, so.
I had my granddaughter, who was born on Leap Day, this past Leap Day. You know, if it weren't for some of our modern technologies and some of the things that we know now, I wouldn't have her around. And I tell you what, she is probably, now I have 6 grandkids, so I have a few. But I really have a soft spot in my heart for her.
Oh, yeah.
She's, at first didn't like me, and now she's almost a year old, and every time I pick her up, well, she is a year old. Well, I don't know. She's a quarter of a year old.
Yeah.
Every time I pick her up, I pick her up and she just lays her head on my shoulder, and I just tell her she makes my heart happy.
Yeah.
And I think there's nothing like that. I have other, you know, like I said, I got 6 grandkids.
Yeah.
And the girls make me happy. I don't know. The boys they're boys, and I love my grandsons, but I've got 4 granddaughters, and they're just awesome.
Yeah, it's just, You know, I mean, now, I mean, thank God for some of the stuff we have, but I mean, also too, it's on a very razor edge balance where, you know, like if power goes out, you know, and a hospital doesn't have a backup or something like that, there's people that are gonna die.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate, that would be, but I mean, it's just, well, it's what life is. I mean, I have it stated over there at the hospital, and I have it on my phone. You know, I got a DNR.
Yep.
DNR, DNI. Do not resuscitate, do not innovate.
I'll let them innovate. Just because I know sometimes that's very temporary.
Yeah, but
if I die, let me be.
Yep.
My wife's not of that ilk, but we're working on that.
But I mean, it's just, that's part of life, what life is and stuff. You know, you survive as much as you can, you pass on as much information as you can ever, you know, teach and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But, you know, ultimately, I mean, that's the end result is death.
Yep.
And that could be a whole nother, I mean, shout out on a book is the Encyclopedia of Homesteading by Carla Emery. It's huge. But she's got like, I mean, she's a homesteader herself. Mm-hmm. Raised like 5 or 6 kids. And they had a farm and everything, and it was like, the information in there is unbelievable. I mean, it has everything from birthing your own, which she did. She birthed a couple of her kids out on the farm.
Wow.
To resources for taking care of the dead. Mm-hmm. You know, in that situation, and you know, and it's just, that is an excellent book. It's like $30. I got it. You know.
Well, and here's another thing too. You know, 80 to 100 years ago, we didn't have a lot of the conveniences we have now.
No.
My grandparents didn't even have electricity until the 50s. My grandmother cooked on a wood cook stove until I was 15.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not even a matter of doing without. It's that they didn't have it to begin with.
Yeah, that's what it was.
So, I know we're getting a little long here, so we're going to take off.
All right.
And we'll get back next week.
Yep.
You available? I'm available.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not like I'm doing anything important. So.
I got today off. One of my staff decided she'd work for me and be nice, and so I got my birthday off. So happy birthday to me.
Happy birthday.
I got an Earth Day birthday.
Oh, okay.
Earth Day didn't exist when I was born, though.
Yeah.
Earth Day, I think, was 1970. I think is when they decided on that.
Probably.
So I was in kindergarten or first grade. I don't remember. A long time ago. So with that, we're gonna say goodbye. Everybody be safe and God bless.